What's up, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to the first episode of Random Encounters. Random Encounters is a podcast all about games. Games played on PC, consoles, and mobile devices. Games that are played on tabletop with dice, cards, and your imagination. I am your host, Landon Barton. Joined with me is my co-host, Hanes underwear model, Johnny Klein.
It's true.
Hanes underwear model. I'm never going to let that die.
Every word is true.
Yeah. Also, across the table from me is World of Warcraft warrior Derek Owen.
How's it going, everybody?
Welcome, man. So, to start off with, I want everybody to know that Random Encounters is actually a podcast that is underneath the fine folks at the SaveState. If you want to find out any more information from them, you can go to thesavestate.com. Bunch of articles, bunch of podcasts, as well as us talking about video games. So, let's talk about some video games. I want to know, what are you guys playing this week? John, what are you playing right now?
Okay. So, for some weird reason, I've been playing Destiny 24/7.
Why is it weird?
It's weird because my wife and I have a character that we're developing together. It is a hunter, and it is amazing.
Wait, are you one of the couples that have a joined Facebook account as well?
No, maybe.
That conversation's happening. That's what that means.
I'll send you a friend request. No, it's just that's something that my wife and I do occasionally. Is we find a particular video game that we both enjoy, and we both bond over it, and we've both been playing the same character for a while, and it hit level 20, and we're about ready to gear it up.
It's a shame that Destiny didn't have more depth to it then, so you guys could actually like develop a character as opposed to just
weird
run
because
through
the last game that we really got into was The Last of Us, which was super story driven, very cinematic.
So you had to play that entire game at the same time together, though, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I was gonna say, otherwise you're missing out on something.
No, we pass the controller back and forth. We like games like that.
Yeah.
I think the first game we started off was Uncharted, the very first Uncharted.
Okay. Yeah.
We would pass off and
Is
back and
the
forth.
first
second
Uncharted?
Okay, it's super dated.
Yeah.
But the second one's one of the best games I've ever played.
It set some groundworks for an amazing franchise. I'm very excited because they're doing the remastered versions of 1, 2,
I want
and
to
3.
play through them.
Yeah.
I never finished the third one.
I actually am in the small camp that I actually kind of liked 3 more than 2.
I hated the cruise ship on 3. I couldn't. I got stuck there for about an hour and a half. And the shooting mechanics in Naughty Dog games are terrible. You play it for the story.
Well,
they
finally
miserable
got
there.
Like The Last of Us.
Last of Us finally
they
did
bring
it
in
right.
a lot of what they did in The Last of Us with Uncharted 4.
Other than the bow and arrow, Last of Us shooting was good.
Well,
they
bow and arrow.
They need to take a message or a page out of Tomb Raider.
Bow and arrow on low settings.
That's how you do a bow
fine.
and arrow. Yeah,
bow and arrow on hard settings was impossible.
I beat Last of Us and I went on the hardest difficulty and I got to the point where you get the bow and arrow and I found out that even if you get a one-shot headshot with an arrow, you don't get to keep it.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm not doing this. Yep. I'm not doing this
because that's the only way.
That's the only way you'll get through it. Yeah.
Otherwise,
that's the cool thing with playing video games with your significant other is that you get to dial down the difficulty settings a little bit and make you look like a complete badass. Like,
my gosh,
I'm headshotting everything in one thing. I mean, it's on easy mode, but it makes them feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
Sorry,
well,
honey.
it makes you feel like a god.
Yeah, honey, if you're listening, it's on easy.
Sorry, you're just now finding out about that. Dirk, what are you playing right
now? So I kind of play a grab bag of things.
He's playing his grab bag.
Yeah, my grab bag.
Grab ass.
Play League of Legends still. The new champion came out today, Tom Kent. He's pretty cool. So I check that every once in a while if I can get buddies on. I play Destiny with my coworkers. Last night we did Heroic Vault of Glass. That was pretty fun. So I check in there once in a while, but I'm really waiting for the expansion. Check Hearthstone. Play that every once in a while.
So you're playing, you're playing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and then even crazier is my roommate went on a super nostalgia fest and actually started playing RuneScape again.
I saw
and
he
convinced me to start playing it again.
Yeah, before we started filming the other day, you guys are getting into RuneScape, and I was like, what?
I know, straight out of middle school. I
walked in there and I was like, what are you doing? Why?
Yeah, it looks like crap, but it's just
Have
so
you
much
not wasted
nostalgia.
enough time on this game in your youth?
Yeah,
of
I don't know, it's refreshing and it's cheap.
And I will add another entry
$5 a
to
month.
the what are we playing this week. I have been playing Final Fantasy VII non-stop since the remake was announced.
So what number, like how many times have you replayed this
How many
game?
times have I played it? Okay, so
Just roughly.
on the original PlayStation, probably about 3 times.
Okay.
After that, on emulators once or twice. Then on an emulator on my phone twice. On PC, which was I originally played it the very first time on PC.
Really?
Probably about
one of those people.
3 times. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, on PC was amazing. All using the number pad on the right side. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
I've been
So
playing
are
Final
you
Fantasy
at the
VII
end
a
of
lot.
it now?
I'm at the very end. I'm not I got to the very last fight with Sephiroth.
You look ashamed right now.
And yet again,
I don't know what's happening.
And yet again, he has used his blow up the sun technique to take me out a number of times.
Blow up the sun, blow up every planet on the way to where you're at.
Yes, but I'm not using any editors or anything. I might be using some slight exploits that were built into the game, and they haven't fixed it in the PC version, so it's still legal.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Fair
This
enough.
is the Steam version now. They could have fixed that by now, but they haven't.
So as much as I am a huge Final Fantasy fan along with you, I never understood that final attack when it destroys all these worlds and then it just focuses its final attack
and
on
it's like
just your party.
6,000 damage. Like, oh, it blew up Mercury, but you're fine.
And it's gonna blow up Mercury 7 times during this entire battle.
It just keeps on blowing up the sun over and over again, supernova.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, he can only use
That's
it once.
amazing.
And it's like, seriously, like Knights of the Round is a long summon. Supernova is like
That it
2
is.
minutes long.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
And it's completely unskippable.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. What a game there.
What are you playing, Landon?
I am so I've beaten
Arkham Knight.
Yeah, I'm playing Arkham Knight. I beat the main story mission, except I can't get the final ending yet. You have to, without any spoilers, you have to do a few extra things after you've beaten the main mission to get the ending. And then there's 2 endings to it. There's the ending you get, and then there's also the perfect ending, which is the perfect ending. You got to get all the 300 million Riddler trophies and do all the races.
They finally
and all that
forced you to do
kinda
that stuff.
crap. Yeah,
That was probably my least favorite. Well, an Arkham Asylum
it's
wasn't
going to
so
be
bad.
even more your least favorite on this game.
Arkham Asylum wasn't bad. I actually 100%ed that game, but Arkham City, no,
Was a
no,
lot.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And this
it
is
felt like
that.
the old N64 games that are based on movies where half the game was just you collecting stuff.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of.
Donkey
And
Kong 64
yeah,
and Banjo-Kazooie.
yeah, I've been through that phase. Not a fan. Says
Yeah.
the guy who plays RuneScape.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just. Yeah, I don't know. It was too much, and the fact there's more does not sound appealing to me.
Oh yeah.
Some of the riddles and stuff was okay, but when it comes to like just collecting crap, it's like, come on, man.
Yeah, and all of the I agree with you. Some of the riddles are fun and challenging, but now
much-
you add on the Batmobile,
Oh,
and
my
they
goodness.
are races. It's so the Riddler has
They're
taken,
racist?
Yeah, they're races.
Oh, there's
They're
races.
The races.
Yeah. So
racist.
the Riddler has taken time to hide his trophies across Gotham, right?
My
And set up little
goodness.
challenges for you, but he's also had time to build
Build
entire
racetracks.
racetracks
Oh, great.
underneath
Yeah.
the city of
I
Gotham.
mean, he's had some free time.
Because he knew you were building all up to this point where you would have this badass Batmobile, right?
Yeah,
So you could race it. Because it
and
totally
he-
makes
doing
sense.
you a favor.
Totally makes
So
sense.
the
I always like
internet,
the side stuff where you see side characters.
The internet says that one of the things that you need to do in this game is upgrade the Batmobile immediately.
Yes.
Like spend a majority of your points on the
100%.
Batmobile. You agree with that?
110%.
Really?
And I had to do that too, and I thank fucking God, because it's there's so many tank battles, and they're ludicrous too, where it's like it's just you in the Batmobile tank mode versus 35 different tanks, and they just continuously come at you, and you just, if you don't level up that stuff, it just becomes that much more of a chore. So it's a way to just make it easier on you. But yeah,
the rest of the game you can handle. It's
Yeah.
just-
So now I'm at the end of it. I've beaten, like I said, I beat the main mission. I'm doing a lot of the side quests, and I'm doing the stuff that's going to get me to the actual final video, the ending of the game. So I'm finally able to actually level up my combat abilities, and that part is fun because they actually added a lot of really good combat mechanics.
Is it a clear-cut ending where you're like, okay, I'm going to go into the northern crater and I need to level up and do all this? Or is it just like the game is now ended and you get to continue afterwards?
Well, it constantly gives you, like, so when you go into your mission, because your mission select screen, and it gives you a percentage of where you're at in comparison to everything else. So it gives you like this.
okay.
It gives you like a big wheel, right?
Yeah.
And in the very top center is your main mission, and it constantly tells you what percentage of that main mission you're at. And then all your other side missions, it gives you those percentages as well. So you know as you're building up to that. And so now I've 100%ed the main mission. I have to do this thing. Before I can actually complete the game.
That's cool.
But I'm at the point now where I can go ahead and actually start a new game plus if I wanted to. So that allows you to keep all your upgrades, and then you
that's
know.
old school. That's cool.
Yeah.
What
So
you could do? You can YouTube it.
no, well, so I'm gonna get the ending that I'm gonna get, right, and I'm gonna YouTube the perfect ending, because there's no way.
Oh, you're not gonna do it?
No.
Oh, I thought. Oh. I thought you were saying you were going to work on that.
No, there's other games.
Yeah.
So
plenty other games to play.
I probably will at least attempt it, but I'm not gonna hold out seeing the perfect ending just for that. Because the thing is, like, I'm gonna go ahead and buy the skins that are gonna come out. Like, I'm gonna play through the game as as Robin in the cool Robin suit, and that's going to be the stuff that's going to keep me coming back to actually finish up the trophies and the Riddler missions and stuff like that, because I can play as a different character, quote unquote. You know what I mean? So that'll give me reason enough to come back to it. But I'm definitely going to YouTube the perfect ending.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I guess that's what we've been playing this week. To move on, this podcast, this episode of Random Encounters is actually brought to you by Professor Hojo's Chocobo Sloppy Joes. The only Sloppy Joe made with 100% slowly stewed chocobo meat in a hearty Moogle sauce. Heavens, they're tasty and expeditious? Expeditious. Professor Hojo's Sloppy Joes. Professor Hojo's Chocobo Sloppy Joes. That's a lot of O's in that.
I know, I did that on purpose.
So for the uninitiated, because everybody's uninitiated, this is episode 1 of Random Encounters. Our fine friend here, John, writes up these wonderful sponsor messages until we actually get sponsored.
Until we get a real sponsor.
Until we get a real sponsor.
This one actually has art on it too. That's the best part.
This is great.
Color. I found a color printer.
If only you could see this. It's an actual. Looks like a regular sloppy Joe, probably from some fast food restaurant, with a nice happy chocobo sitting on top of it.
Yeah, he's
just
happy.
Waiting to get mauled and destroyed. Slowly stewed in Moogle sauce. I like that you had to drag a Moogle. You had to kill a Moogle and a chocobo.
Yeah.
For this.
Well, the Moogle brings the nice kind of tannins to the sauce, and the chocobo brings the protein and the the fatty element.
Okay, so because all the what are they, the Gayashi? I always called it Gayashi because I can never pronounce it properly. What are the greens that you feed your chocobo?
Oh, the guy. I just bought a ton of.
I call it Gayashi because I don't know. It's one of those things like when you're reading
greens.
Harry Potter and you're like, her name's Hermione, but you call it Hermione or something like that. Because you don't know how the fuck to pronounce
Bunch
it.
of scrubs.
Oh, you were calling it Hermione from the start?
Yeah.
Who told you how to pronounce it?
I don't know. I didn't think
Okay.
What did you say? I didn't think it was that.
All right.
Bullshit.
Fan of the podcast, Paul, who actually pronounced it Hermione the very first time reading the books.
Now hold on.
Hermione.
Hermione, yeah, that's what it
pronounce
was.
it that way.
So now, but did you start reading after the first movie had come out? 'Cause
No,
you're younger than
I
us.
read the first 3, and then the 4th one was too boring, and then I finally
The
caught
4th
back
one was too boring.
The beginning was
Are you
brutally
fucking
boring.
kidding me? The 4th one.
The 4th one was what sold me.
I was stayed
Really?
up till
The
4 or
beginning.
5 o'clock in the morning reading the 4th one just so I could get all the pass. I was like, oh no, Cedric. Oh
No. Oh, Cedric.
he sounds so
No,
cute.
the rest of the book was fine. The opening was too boring for
Okay.
me. The Quidditch World Cup was just too slow.
That book
they talked
was-
about that port key, that fucking boot in the field for like a whole chapter.
Yeah.
Like pages upon pages about this boot.
You would not like Hemingway, my friend.
So I have a hard time with Tolkien because he does the same thing.
He'll just
I mean, I went
the
back
cow
later
that the
and read
leather
it
was
all,
made
and it was
from for the boot
fine,
in the
but at the
field.
time I was just not.
So by the time we are now talking about Harry Potter, I think it's probably time that we switch over to John. What's going on in the news today?
All right, everybody. The top news stories of the week are. Guess what? Minecraft came out with a story mode trailer. Has anybody seen this
I
yet?
have not seen the trailer.
I have
It
not.
is interesting. So the same team that has taken over a lot of Walking Dead and
Yeah,
Game
The
of
Walking Dead,
Thrones, a Telltale
Telltale
game
Games.
Oh,
series
I've heard about this. Yeah.
has finally come out with a trailer for Minecraft story mode.
Yeah,
It'll
see,
be
I knew about
Is
this.
it within Minecraft or is it a separate Telltale game?
It's a separate Telltale
It's a
game.
separate Telltale game, and this is going to allude to something that we're going to talk about a little bit different on, because Minecraft has traditionally been about the gameplay. There has not been any narrative. Well, this is going to be a narrative-driven video game by Telltale Games.
Which I just don't like.
All about
Like I said, I haven't seen the trailer.
I mean, they've done this for Borderlands, they've done it for Game of Thrones, they've done it for Walking Dead. Like,
Those
you
all
just-
make sense. Those all make sense.
Yeah.
They just take a franchise and turn it into a story. What doesn't make sense to me about this is the fact it's not within the game. How do you make a story about a game that doesn't even have a story to begin with?
Right.
Exactly.
That's
I
where
feel
it's
like this
weird.
is a really missed
That's what
opportunity
they're
for
doing,
not.
and they're doing it in the Minecraft universe.
incorporating it.
So it's going to be released episodically,
Yeah, that's what
just
they
like
do.
The Walking Dead and any other Telltales like Borderlands or anything like that.
Yep.
They're not going to create an official storyline for Minecraft, just like it's not official for all the other things. and it's going to be released to sometime in 2015. And then there's a collaboration with Mojang that they're doing this, which is interesting because when I first started Minecraft, I was very enthralled on the fact that I have to stay alive 1 day, 2 days, and then figure out how to craft things. The trailer for this is very narrative. There are voices. It's like seeing the Lego movie for the first time.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's like when you saw the Lego movie, you're like, oh, this thing I'm super familiar with, all of a sudden has a voice and a storyline. That's the first sense I got from watching this trailer. Everybody go out and watch this trailer. It is very well done, by the way.
Yeah, but there is a slight difference where the Lego games and the Lego movies that you start to give them voices to, those are all licensed out characters. Mm-hmm. Characters that do have voices.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So when you hear Lego Batman...
No one knows what Steve's voice is.
Right, so when Lego Batman speaks, you have a certain thing in your head of like, okay, this is going to be a Batman, or they're either going to make fun of Christian Bale cancer voice, or they're going to do a little Michael Keaton something or other. You know, you have something to bounce off of. What is the voice of Steve? Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea.
What is the voice of the Ender Dragon?
I don't know.
I think Chris Pratt should just do it all.
Yeah, probably.
If Hollywood is dictating anything, Chris Pratt will do everything.
It's going to sell like crazy. I'm just a little disappointed that it's not within the game. Because I feel like the game, that's the biggest thing the game is missing, is a story. So it's kind of disappointing that a separate company is just going to tell a story that's completely deep.
Well, but so they can't, who knows what's going to happen when it comes to Minecraft 2, which is going to be more than likely an Xbox exclusive. They might add
I don't
story
know if I
to
could
it,
see them
though.
doing a Minecraft 2.
Oh,
Have they announced that they're going to?
with the amount of money that Microsoft
I think they're just going to keep
that,
adding stuff. Well, no, they
won't.
have to because they're not making money off it.
They've joked about
Yeah.
a Minecraft 2, but they've made very clear that that was just a joke.
they have to make a Minecraft 2 because Minecraft 2 is the only way that they're going to be able to make
I think I could
anything
see them-
exclusive to Microsoft for the amount of money that they put. They said, hey, no, we're going to keep Minecraft on all these other consoles, specifically PlayStation, but once they make Minecraft 2, that is out the window.
I think I see them making an expansion.
As
where
soon as
they're
they make
making
a
second
Warcraft
one.
2, a World of Warcraft 2, they'll make a Minecraft 2. That's what I'm saying. All right, second up in the news, David Cross of
Arrested
Arrested
Development.
Development fame.
Chris Cross?
Oops.
Of Arrested Development fame.
Applesauce.
Are you all familiar with Arrested Development?
Yes, sir.
One of my favorite characters, Mr. Funke, joins the Blue Man Group, etc. David Cross
That's such a good
discussed with IGN. He visited IGN and had an interview there saying that him and Brian Posehn, one
Brian
of the
Posehn was
developers
there?
for Destiny, yes, apparently came up with a bunch of jokes for Destiny.
Wait a second, hold on. Start over. What was Brian Posehn doing there? You said he was a developer for Destiny?
No, I didn't.
Brian Posehn is not a developer for Destiny. There's no chance. He's a comedian.
I read this wrong. And start editing now.
Nope. We're
So
leaving it all
apparently
in.
David Cross... Oh, I know who you're talking about now. He's the big gorilla bear looking fuck.
Yeah, that's him.
Okay, so apparently Brian Posehn, who I've listened to his stand-up a number of times, and he makes fun of how his girlfriend hates him because he's a big gorilla and having sex with her, and how he likes to masturbate to metal.
Okay.
Apparently David Cross and Brian Posehn spent a couple days with Bungie writing one-liners. Couple days. Writing witty,
For all three one-liners. of
writing
Destiny.
witty one-liners for the Ghost character,
Okay.
played by Peter Dinklage. And apparently they used absolutely zero of these.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
They're bad.
So, I mean, I've been all the way through Destiny. You've been all the way through Story Mode on
Multiple
Destiny.
times, yes.
And the Peter Dinklage Ghost character is extremely dry
Yeah, extremely disappointing.
and
honestly.
not too humorous.
Yeah.
Although
He
there are a
has
couple attempts.
2 or 3 attempts at jokes throughout the thing,
unsuccessfully.
throughout the campaign. Yeah.
So what do you think about this?
I think it was a bad call on Destiny.
Do you think a funnier Ghost would have worked a little bit better?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that game had absolutely no personality. Why take personality away from the one thing that could have had some?
Well, because the whole tone of the game was this kind of serious tone that they set up. Do you think that the Ghost would have taken away from that? Like a funnier Ghost would have...
I honestly
Yeah.
think there was nothing to take away from.
But does a Brian Posehn funny ghost? Ghost.
I think they should have had a separate Ghost with just Brian Posehn in there.
You could get a different skin that's Brian Posehn's voice talking
I've
to
never
you.
seen a larger person have a 12-year-old voice.
I don't know. The story on Destiny was just so bad.
It's
So I
interesting.
can't think of anything making it worse. As terrible as that sounds.
It's interesting that they said they denied this. Like they didn't use any of it, especially where Destiny isn't. Destiny working with weren't they the Red Bull sponsorship? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're doing a lot of the sponsorship. They're hiring out the celebrities. They got the celebrity already for Peter Dinklage doing the voice. Like
it's funny because Peter
kinda
Dinklage
selling
got
out
a
a little
lot of backlash for his performance in Destiny.
Yeah.
And they've come to him and they've interviewed him about it. And he said they gave me a script, sat me down and said, talk like a little robot in outer space. And that's what he performed.
yeah,
He said they gave him almost zero direction other than that.
yeah.
And that's why his performance was the way it was. He
Like
talked
a
like a
kind of
robot.
like a male Cortana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except Cortana actually makes jokes. And says funny
Not
things.
good
and-
jokes.
yeah, but better than what Ghost did.
Well, she has more of a personality than the
Yeah.
Ghost does. I mean, people care about Cortana. People.
If you play the fourth one, you care a lot about Cortana.
Granted, you can't cosplay as a small little hexagonal robot, but
Seen
people cosplay as Cortana. People care about Cortana. People read about Cortana. There's fan fiction about Cortana. There's nothing about that when it comes to
I think it's a missed opportunity. Peter
Yeah.
Dinklage is...
So Cross and Posehn sat down in a room, and they're basically just shooting out shit that made them laugh, and they thought that they were being taken a little bit more seriously, and then nothing was put into the game at all.
So did they come out and make any statement afterwards that they
This is the first that I've heard about it. This is the first
Yeah,
that they've
same
come out
here.
about it, but obviously it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they still got paid.
There,
for
there were
for
complaints
them
about the
being
Ghost character being dry from the very beginning.
What's ironic is since it was so bad, Peter Dinklage has not come back to the game. So for both the expansions that have come out since then, your Ghost does not talk whatsoever. It's
Really?
different people that talk to you. Yep.
Interesting. All right.
What else we got?
Last but not least, Journey is arriving on the PlayStation 4. Landon, I know that you're excited about this on July 21st.
Great.
And guess what?
Is it free?
It is for you because you already have it on the
I already bought it.
PlayStation 3.
Okay.
So,
I was wondering if it was going to be a PSN exclude, like
like one of their
PlayStation
free-
Plus free of the month type
Yeah.
thing.
So I want you to tell everybody why we should pick up this game.
Oh, this is one of those games. For Dirk, have you played Journey?
I have not.
Have you played any of the other That Game Company games? So
I
they did
don't-
like Flow and they did Flower.
Played Flower for a little bit on your PS3.
Okay, so these are games that are very
Just to tell you about it.
these are games that are very ethereal. You know what I mean? They're more experiential than they are any kind of real gameplay mechanics. I mean, you're moving around, you're just kind of experiencing
Very
the world.
ludological.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe not. No, these are pretty. You're creating a lot of your own narrative. This is a sneak peek into what we're going to be talking about later.
So the narrative is something you create instead of something that's been provided to you.
So much, yeah. And this is a weird. You're inputting. Okay, think of Journey like a painting. Like maybe a painter would. Okay, so you know how people will this is some art school bullshit here for you a little
okay.
bit. So say a painter paints a big full canvas of one color, and maybe they do one strip of a second color right down the middle or something like that. And then you're supposed to come up there and you're putting your own perceptions and your own feelings and your own whatever it is into that painting, and you're getting out something that is unique to me compared to what you would be getting out of if you were looking at that painting. Journey is very, very much that way.
Okay.
Where you're going through this game, it doesn't really tell you anything. It doesn't force you to do something specific. It kind of guides you along a journey, if you will, where you're this character kind of wrapped in this cloak of this red cloak, and you've got this big kind of tapestry tale behind you that gets longer and longer as the more and more you play the game, and you're collecting these little items that are extending your tapestry tale. And the whole goal, you keep it occasionally the camera will glance up and you're seeing at the end of this big mountain in a glowing section. You're like, that's your goal. Your goal is to get there, right? And then
is that something that is communicated to you at the very beginning of the game? Like, are you clear of your goal at the beginning?
It's been a while since I played it. I feel like somewhere very, very early in the game, it does that pan and zoom to that mountain, telling you move that direction, right?
Okay.
And then about halfway through the game,
that does add a lot of narrative to it.
Yeah, it's kind of telling you like you need to be. You're going on this expedition or going towards that specific goal. It's giving you a goal, right? So gameplay mechanic right there, giving you a goal, and you keep moving forward with that. And you're collecting, like I said, you're collecting this tapestry. And then about halfway through the game, you meet up with somebody else, somebody that you can't have a conversation with. There's no PlayStation Network conversation. There's no chatting.
Okay.
but you know that that's another player, and you're conversing with each other through just movement and through with character animation and motion, and you're saying like, okay, help me solve these problems. You can either work together, you can not work together, and then you continue on with your journey, right? Until you get near the end. And through the entire experience, it's probably a 3, maybe 4 hour experience. It is emotional. And I don't know how to explain it without saying anything about it, and I want you guys to experience it. This is one of those games that I encourage anybody and everybody to experience it because it's such a simple mechanic. It's so gorgeously put together, and plenty of people cry. Plenty of people cry through a game like this.
Excuses now.
No, it's a great game. You should go play it, man.
Okay.
Seriously.
Okay, so back to my original question. This is something we should pick up.
100%.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, if I went far too into that.
Fine. It's fine. And that's it for the news, everybody. If you see a news story that you like or you want us to discuss, feel free to give us a shout out, and we will talk about it here. Winnie, what do you got up next?
Well, first off, before we get into the main topic of the day, we have another sponsorship.
Oh, do we?
Yeah.
Who's the new sponsor?
Oh, God, I have no idea.
Go ahead.
Our sponsor for this episode, along with Professor Hojo's Chocobo Sloppy Joe's, is there's a lot of professors.
Oh, yeah. They make a lot of money.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Professor Oak's Pika Glue. Uh-oh, Squirtle knocked over Mom's favorite vase again. It shattered into 1,000,000 pieces. Pika Glue, I choose you. Pika Glue, craftily made in an alley behind Dr. Oat's laboratory. What's it made of? We'll never tell. You want to do Pikachu noises?
No, it's you.
No, Pika. No.
Pika Glue.
Oh, that is terrible. That is terrible.
We'll never tell.
That's great.
We'll never tell. Pika Glue. He doesn't even have hooves. Like you make glue out of horses, right?
No.
Horse feet.
That's electricity, my friend.
Electrical glue.
Sure.
So they're held together through static electricity?
We'll never know.
Okay, that's true.
That's
Fair
Professor Oaks. That's why he's a professor. He wasn't making any money off of selling those squirrels.
He was giving them away. He wasn't selling
the
anything.
Venusaurs. No one's buying those Venusaurs. We gotta make some money some other way.
Let's
turn the Pikachus into glue. Sorry. There are.
We gotta keep the lights on, Professor. What do we gotta do?
Well, look at all these leftover Venusaurs because nobody chooses.
It's Bulbasaur, you asshole.
Sorry. I wouldn't know. I didn't ever pick him.
So somebody took the time to actually level him up to his final evolution and then just abandons it.
Oh, my favorite joke is that somebody's like, I wish you had 3 saves in a Game Boy. So you could
you pick
have
Charmander
so
three
you have a
times.
Charmander, and you could pick a Squirtle, and the 3rd save for your second Charmander. The Bulbasaur is so fucking useless.
Bulbasaur's cool until it becomes Venusaur. Like, Ivysaur's alright. Venusaur's like, man, what happened to you?
Man. So most of the time I will play I'll play devil's advocate or I'll play the nice guy, but no, you guys are so right.
It's Squirtle all the way, man.
No, it's Charmander all the way.
Oh no, Blastoise is the
Blastoise is awesome.
Pokemon of all
Now
time.
Charizard's what's up, man? Because he won't listen to you. But he's not a bitch.
Yeah, then why would I mess with him?
No, he's
Sorry.
great.
No.
Let's be real though. Scyther. Scyther's what's up.
Nah, he's not my favorite. He's
No.
cool. He's not my
Okay,
favorite,
everybody has. Okay, we're gonna play the 10-second game.
10-second game.
Everybody's gonna mention their favorite Pokemon in 5 seconds. 5, 4,
Where's the 10 seconds coming
3.
into
I
play?
don't
Shut
know.
up. 2, 1.
Scyther.
Blastoise.
Haunter.
Haunter's a good
Oh,
one.
for sure. Yeah.
Haunter's a good one.
Psychic Pokemon?
He's a
The
psychic.
ghost
He's a ghost Pokemon.
Come on.
I
Psychic's
thought all
like the
ghosts were
Alakazam.
psychic.
Depends on if.
They're opposites. Ghost is what psychic are weak
Oh,
to ghost. If you ever watched the
sorry.
old show, remember Ash couldn't beat Sabrina, so he goes to the ghost tower, and that's why he gets.
Unless you're talking the card game, because then they're
yeah,
lumped
that's a
together.
lot different.
Then you kind of are right.
Thanks, Landon.
So the main topic that I've got you guys here together to talk about is the age-old debate. I say it age-old debate because I've had this conversation a handful of times.
usually lose.
I usually lose a lot of stuff. Yeah, that's very true. The age-old debate of narratology versus ludology. Now, a little backstory here. the idea, these are game theories. These are theories of how to talk about games, discuss games, review games, and look at games in relationship to others and in history.
Now let's go over these two terms real quick. Narratology is somebody who likes a lot of ramen noodles and they want to be Hokage one day, right?
Yeah, totally.
Is that Narratology?
Narratology? No, are you wearing that? Are
No,
you wearing that ridiculous headband and have the terrible English actor?
So, from an outsider's perspective, narratology is a way of looking at games and judging games based on basically story, using it as a game is a lot of text. It is a lot of narration. It is very story driven. A game, that's the way that people look at those games. Ludology is somebody who's looking at a game and more of a gameplay perspective. Like a game is great because of gameplay and the mechanics built into it. Is that kind of the general gist of it?
Basically, so I wrote down a very simplified definition of each one of these.
Okay.
And for the most part, you hit on all of it. Narratology, for the most part, is games should be understood as novel forms of narrative and can be studied using theories of narrative. So this allows for the comparison to movies, books, literature of all kinds, and the stories that are being provided to you. So you pretty much hit the nail on the head with that. But specifically, it's allowing you to compare it to these other forms of media, right? Whereas Ludology is much more of an enclosed idea, where Ludology is games should be understood on their own terms, not other terms. Focus should be on the rules and the gameplay mechanics of a game, and not specifically not the representational elements which are only incidental. That last line basically means that the narrative is incidental to the fact that you're playing a game, and it comes along with the gameplay mechanics, but that is not the important part. The important part is specifically the gameplay, the mechanics, the thought processes that come through it, the puzzle solving that you're dealing with, and what you're actually inputting within the game.
So the end experience for a narrative person would be, the story in Last of Us was great. The end of a ludologist would be, oh my gosh, the mechanics in Last of Us were so great. The materials were so sparse that made the gameplay a lot better. That's the two kind of ways to look at a singular game.
To look at a singular game, yeah.
Okay, so let's break this up into, let's just give people examples of a ludologist game and a narratologist game. So I think The Last of Us is a great narratologist game because
it's certainly the first one that would come to my mind.
The thing that I remember about The Last of Us most of all is the story. And how it's played out in the acting.
Sure.
Compared to, let's say, Portal 2 as a ludologist game.
It's a good example.
Those are my two examples of the two. What would you say?
Those are really great examples. The only thing that I would say as a caveat, Portal 2, one could very, very easily argue narratology through Portal, because the story that's provided within Portal is actually A, hilarious, but B, also fairly deep, especially if you look at Portal 1 into Portal 2, because you get a lot of backstory through Portal 2 of how it was created. Portal 1, you get a lot of interesting story of like, why are you even here? You're trying to get yourself out of this situation. So you could argue both of those really, really easily for narratology for Portal. I would say you're still good on The Last of Us for narratology. I would say maybe a more pure example of ludology might be some of your earlier games like a Tetris or a Pong. You could argue the story behind there is to win, right?
Well, see, that's the thing that in researching this, I found out that people that are on the narratology view, let's call them narratologists.
I think that's what they would like to be called.
I think that they can add narrative to almost anything.
Yeah.
I could be playing, checkers, and they could add narrative to that somehow because of the history of where checkers comes from and what you're trying to accomplish.
Sure.
But at the same time, ludologists can add ludology to anything they seem
theoretically. Yeah,
also.
Sure. Dirk, you've been a little silent through this. What your gut reaction to a lot of this information? Kind of, how are you feeling about this?
I feel like there's no real right answer. I mean, ludology. It just depends on the game you're playing. When you think of narratology, it's a Telltale game or an RPG. Say, the BioWare games. You play them majorly for the most part, for the story, not for the gameplay. No one played Knights of the Republic because the gameplay was on point. That's not why they played that. No one plays Telltale games because the gameplay is solid. No, you want to see what's going to happen in the story. You want to see how the story evolves from your decisions. But on the other hand, you have ludology games such as multiplayer-only games, or especially will come to mind. Titanfall, Evolve, League of Legends is a huge one. I'd even say World of Warcraft. There's a story there, but no one plays World of Warcraft for the story.
And World of Warcraft is a great example of how these things can be shifted in perspective of how the game is actually experienced.
Absolutely.
So you could look at World of Warcraft and say, okay, yeah, nobody plays this for the story, even though it's definitely built into it.
Oh, the story's there if you want to hunt it down and you want to read.
Yeah, there are a few people that
No, definitely people get into the lore, for sure. And then you look at, say, maybe a different experience, like John and I have talked about this before, The Sims. The Sims is an experience where realistically there is no story built into it. It's pure gameplay that's just built into it. But you're creating the story. You're creating these characters that look like you. You can make a character that'll look like you. You can make a character that'll look like what you want to look like. Or you can make a totally different character and play somebody else's life. And you're building this experience. You're building the story. And that's what people come there for. Some people are coming there because the gameplay is fun. Yeah, the gameplay for a Sims game is addictive and very fun. But they're creating this world. They're creating this life for themselves. And so that's a thing where games can evolve.
And that's where I think these two categories are starting to mesh more. And I think that maybe when Ludology and Narratology first came together discussing games, where it was very segregated. I think the way technology is now, I don't think that these two categories are as separate as they should be.
Okay.
So I think the way that technology has come, you have a game like Minecraft, where it is a super ludological game, right? There is no narrative, there's no story behind it whatsoever when you go into the game. You can create your own narrative when you go in there, and we talked about this earlier. They've just added a story mode to the game, where they're adding that narrative to the game, kind of.
Well, they made a separate game that has a story mode.
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
but you're taking that universe.
Yeah. And I feel like my most favorite games are very narrative driven. Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VII.
The ones you remember are the ones with the stories. The one you play the most. From my experience, the ones you remember the most are Narratology. The ones you play regularly are Ludology.
Or have a lot of replay value or something like that.
And those tend to be more Ludology games, I believe.
Yeah, it's like reading a book. You know, I've read that book.
Yeah.
I might go back and read it every now and again, compared to I like the experience of watching Guardians of the Galaxy. And I can watch Guardians of the Galaxy 20 times in a week and still just like having it on. Whereas there's a great story like Fahrenheit 451 that I've read, and I'm just so engrossed in this story. I'm not going to read the book a million times because, you know, it's over. But I think you're right. I think it goes a little bit deeper into the current experience that I'm having with something compared to, do I want to, you know, change this lasting experience? It's kind of like mom's cooking. You know, if your mom doesn't cook for you anymore, you know, are you going to try to recreate her dishes? Or are you going to be like, oh, mom's lasagna was the best. I'm not even going to try to redo that. Whereas, like, I make a kick-ass ramen noodle, I'm going to make that as many times as I can because I make a bomb-ass ramen noodle, you know?
Now, some people would argue that as narrative becomes much more important to games, because for the most part, people they're putting it into almost every game, and you kind of see, for the most part, it was in RPGs, and now it seems like RPG elements are being inputted into every other game, and really that's kind of almost a discussion into itself there. But some people on the ludology side would argue that some games are actually getting a pass because of the story. You know, some games that maybe the gameplay isn't good and they're not really fun. People could argue a game that I know, Dirk, you've experienced is Heavy Rain.
I was going to bring it up.
Or the other games that are made by Quantic Dream. Any of those,
those
you know,
are incredible.
Just it's only QuickTime event.
Right. So those are games where people are like, oh, you know, those are getting a pass just because the story is good. Those games suck, right? Like, and those ludologists maybe would be upset about that because like these developers don't care about the game. These developers don't care about the gameplay anymore. All they're caring about is throwing in the story, and some people are eating this up, and they're like, that's wrong. How do you guys kind of feel about that? What's your mindset there?
I think that gaming in its own nature has expanded I think that there are a number of different audiences. There are people that want a quick fix. There are people that don't want to become emotionally invested in a game. And there's people that love gameplay. There's people that love stories. I'm right in the middle. I love games with amazing gameplay that I can sit down for 15 minutes. And I love games that I can sit down and actually invest time in and get into the story. Last of Us versus Destiny. I play both those games. Okay?
It's a good example.
Yeah. Last of Us, I was so invested in the story. Destiny, I have no fucking clue what's going on. Okay? Right?
Just wait until Red Bull jumps in.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that Heavy Rain is great for a specific crowd that are more story driven. The people that used to read choose your own adventure books. You know, I think games like Destiny are people that like, you know, that used to like getting on their Game Boy and getting quick fixes on games, you know, that didn't really engross you too much. You know, that's kind of my stance on it.
What do you think about that question?
I mean, I don't think there's a wrong way to make a game, unless we're talking about mobile gaming, and that's a whole other story. But
Yeah.
I don't think. I mean, everything. I think when you go into developing a game, you have to find the balance you're looking for. And so when Quantum Dream goes into a game, they want to tell a story, and they want you to choose how that story unfolds. Meanwhile, when people who make multiplayer games, they're 100% focusing on the gameplay, making sure the game can be competitive.
Sure.
So I don't think anyone really has a right to say there's a wrong way to make a game unless you're talking about mobile games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
microtransactions are the worst thing to ever happen.
Well, there are wrong ways to make games.
So we should all-
we can talk about that forever.
Yeah,
but-
yeah. I just don't think that's a good reason to say a game is.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
wrong.
for sure. Yeah, and again, it's these are specific people that feel so. I think collectively as a group, we feel like both of these perspectives are too narrow, right?
I think, like you said, the RPG elements are constantly being added into games, and I think that shows how important narratology is. When you have a story and you are invested in how this character turns out, the game tends to be a better experience. So I think that shows just how important narratology is, and you can't just have a game
Well,
with Ludology.
see, now, Ludologists would argue that RPG elements are game mechanics, that an inventory is a game mechanic. It has
Absolutely.
nothing to do with the
Yeah,
narrative,
absolutely.
and that the leveling system and experience points and HP and magical points are very ludological. But
Which is a thing that was built before there were even really video games.
Yeah.
You could look back at D&D, classic, you know.
which is funny because those elements originated in role-playing games.
Right.
Role-playing games where it's all about the narrative with this different rule set, which is why I think that honestly, and I'm going to bring this to a big close here, I don't give a shit about narratology versus, okay, here's the thing. These two ways of looking at video game studies, which is why these two categories exist versus each other, is people are looking at a way to study video games. You look at the very basis of video games. We're talking paper and pen RPGs. It was a set of rules, a set of game mechanics, and that was separate from the story. But they all kind of merged in together, and they married in together to make Dungeons and Dragons one of the greatest gaming experiences of all time, and probably the father of gaming. You know,
It sets the
henceforth.
stage for basically most games where they take those base, elements, digitize it, turn it into a video game, and that's how you get a lot of the stuff that
I
we
think
experience.
every game has those two aspects. I think every game has a narrative and a ludological aspect to it. And I think that's what makes a great game, is finding that good balance between the two. Or going heavy on gameplay or going heavy on story. But that, for me personally, that balance in the middle of a great story and great gameplay, like World of Warcraft for me, because I was big into Warcraft lore. And then you add in the gameplay of the warrior that I was playing. It just made the game very special for me that I could experience that.
So for you, you feel like maybe you're more in the middle ground of obviously I know we probably all feel the same in terms of like I don't think narratology or ludology is the right answer.
Yeah.
It's a mixture of the two. But now let's go to more of a personal question. Like what is the game that you prefer the most? And I think you just kind of answered that, where you're preferring more of that middle ground.
Yeah.
You're preferring that perfect balance between the focus and the thought process behind a gameplay experience, game mechanics, game thought, all that stuff, as well as providing an intelligent, thought-provoking story.
I want to spend 4 or 5 hours grinding in this game, and at the same time feel something for it too.
Sure. Dirk, what's your personal preference?
I think my personal preference would probably be heavier on narratology.
Okay.
When I think of the most influential moments I've had in my lifetime playing video games, the games that stick out to me are the ones that were more narrative than, ludology focus.
Sure.
The RPGs, BioWare. I mean, every single one of their games I played. Like, if you ask me about a video game, that is what resonates with me.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the caveat with ludology games is to really enjoy them. I feel like you almost have to have multiple people playing. For more of the games that are more focused on the actual gameplay, I don't tend to get the full enjoyment out of it unless I have friends playing with me.
Okay.
A good example of that is just pretty much any multiplayer game. It's always more fun with a group of people than by yourself.
Sure.
Well,
Destiny is more fun with a group of people.
I think that it's because you're creating your own narrative
Exactly.
at that point. Because you're creating a story with you and your friends. That's why Minecraft...
You're giving you something to talk about later too, or text about or something. You know what I mean? It's giving that it's going past the gameplay or going past you playing a game. It creates it adds this extra element into your life.
So what about you, Landon?
100% narratology focused is the experience. Again, Dirk, what you're talking about. When I think back to the games that influenced me the most and the games that I want to be, think 50 or 60 years down the road, like what were the games that were so influential here? And I think back to specifically, I think to Journey, which I talked about heavily earlier in this podcast. Yeah, man, that is a game that will always forever stand out to me because it was so simple, it was so beautiful, and it hit you right in the feels. Hit you right in the feels. The games that hit me in the feels, like Gone Home. Did either of you play Gone Home?
Mm-mm.
Go fucking play Gone Home.
Okay.
Go play Gone Home. It is such a good game. Do you guys know anything about it at all?
No.
Gone Home, very base level. Gone Home is you play as a woman who is coming back from schooling out in Europe. She comes back to her home. Nobody's in the house, and she's just exploring the house, figuring out this story of what happened.
Oh, I've
right?
seen this.
So she's just walking around. She's listening to little tapes or reading little notes, solving little problems, and it's probably a 3 or 4 hour experience. And I don't think anything has hit me so hard in reading a book, reading a story, watching a movie. Well, maybe a movie has hit me a little harder in the feels than this, but damn close.
Interstellar.
No. Maybe if I was a father, Interstellar would hit me a little harder.
Oh, we're gonna go over that later.
But yeah, man, Gone Home is a beautiful, beautiful game, and I don't think anything is more influential in my life than maybe how that game hit me.
Interesting.
But I mean, then obviously my favorite games of all time are a lot of the Final Fantasies. Those to me actually strike a good balance of what I like in terms of gameplay mechanics as well as story. Because those are the games where I'll sit and for hours upon hours just grind in that game, and I'm not experiencing any story at that point. I'm just enjoying doing that. I'm enjoying the idea of seeing that the numbers are going higher, my strength is getting better, my HP is going up, stuff like that.
Do you think part of it has to do with our age? Do you think as we get older, we're more excited about continuations in narratology as opposed to more iterations of ludology? Because like me personally, I was a huge Halo fan when I was younger. Halo 5's coming out, and I'm gonna get it, but like I'm not like it's not the center of my attention right now. Only 2 months out. Halo 3, I would have been like counting down the days, and just Halo 5 like it's kind of whatever. But if there's another Mass Effect coming out, if I had a date for that, that'd be
Well, I think it's hard to tell because the market dictates absolutely that narratology is very important because they will only make games that will be franchises. Ubisoft is very open about the only games they're willing to make now are stuff that they can annualize, right?
Well, I mean that's when narratology goes too far too.
Well, sure, but it's like that's where the market is absolutely dictating that people care about this continuation.
That's why movies have sequels.
But at the same time, if you look on the mobile market or you look at something, Hearthstone, stuff that's between PC and League of Legends and stuff like that is very, very much gameplay oriented,
It's all there is.
those are huge. StarCraft, these tournaments, these massive tournaments that millions of people go on Twitch to watch and spend money on, and people are this is their livelihood. They make their money off of these games. There's no story in that. Those people aren't playing those for the story. They're playing it A, to make money, and B, also because it's a fun game.
Now, there's a very good
people
example.
watch it because it's a fun game.
There's a very good example of something that did not have any narrative to it that was added to it later on. Originally, when Smash Brothers was supposed to come out, when they were developing Smash Brothers in the very beginning,
it was literally arcade style.
It was arcade style, and it was polygon versus polygon. There was no,
there's no character.
There's no anything like that. They pitched the idea to Nintendo. Nintendo liked it, but then Nintendo said,
I looked this up. You got this slightly incorrect.
go for it.
So it was Iwata, who is the current president, and then it was also Sakurai, who is the father of Smash Brothers, right? So they created, like you had mentioned there, but then it was Sakurai who said, hey, this is going to give it more of an atmosphere. This is going to give it more of an environment, more appeal to it if we put these Nintendo characters into it. So they did that, not necessarily with Nintendo's permission, pitched it to them. They said, this is awesome. And then they rolled with it from there. And so they sold it specifically just in Japan, and then became such a huge hit that they took it to America.
Okay, so the question is...
So it wasn't that Nintendo was like, let's capitalize on this, make it Nintendo characters.
Okay, so the question is, wouldn't that game be the same as it is today without the Nintendo characters?
Absolutely
without
not.
adding the narrative to it?
No.
People only care because they finally got to
Because that
play.
would have been a strict gameplay game.
Right.
Yeah.
With
People
no
only care about
story.
Smash Bros. Because they got to play the characters
Supposedly.
And you could argue too
love.
that it wouldn't be anywhere close to the same game, because who in their right mind would also create a weird mouse creature that shoots lightning?
Shoots lightning.
You know what I mean? Like that wouldn't be a normal gameplay mechanic for a fighting game.
Yeah, so that's another thing that that I think a lot of developers have an edge
they wouldn't
up
be able
on.
to create glue out of it either.
That's not official. We can't comment on our
That's
sponsor.
not canon. Is that what happens to Pikachu when he loses in Smash Brothers?
No.
He just goes to Professor Oak?
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
I'm sorry. I mean, that's kind of the thing, is that also in today's market, you have a lot of sequels where you don't have to add a lot of narrative necessarily to something for it to have narrative. So I could create a Mario game, or I could create a Pikachu game, or a Samus game that is strictly gameplay, like a lot of the 3DS games that they announced at E3.
Like Federation Force and stuff.
Yeah, which could be a completely separate game, but they added the Metroid narrative to it.
Sure. Get people excited about it.
So
people care about it. There's no denying that people care about it. So I think we're kind of running in circles a little bit now here at the end of it. I mean, do you guys have any final remarks specifically about Narratology versus Ludology?
I think a great game gets a balance between the two.
And I think there's going to be bad games regardless. Mm-hmm. Dirk, what do you to wrap this kind of up?
I think we pretty much summed it up.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. The key is finding the balance and identifying what kind of game you want to make from the start.
Absolutely.
And just pursuing that.
Absolutely. I think that Narratology and Ludology as philosophies, they're fine. Like, there's a lot of smart ideas that I agree with both of them. I think they are both far, far too narrow.
I would say that I think what Ludology's claim that Narratology or the story is just incidental is about as wrong as you could get. Yeah, because it is important that games can be compared to books and movies. That's why Telltale makes these games based on popular franchises.
Right.
Like, it's important to be able to say that game was just as good as I guess a book's a bad example, but you know what I mean? Like, it's important to be able to compare the media.
Especially as media changes, as media evolves, you know what I mean? You're looking at books are evolving to where now we've got audiobooks, we've got podcasts, and we've got all this different forms of narrative that you can digest, and it's going to constantly evolve, right? Video games are no different. If you look back into the 70s when video games were created, they're totally different than they are now. So I think the theories behind it, the ways that you talk about them and compare them and judge them and rate them has to evolve with it. And I think you look at Ludology feels a little outdated, and it's a good ideological thought process where it's like gameplay should come first. Gameplay, because this is a video game, you should think about games in terms of gameplay. Yeah. That's a good ideological thought process. It's not going to work for everything. Yeah. And in the same way that Narratology is not going to work for everything. These are far,
why
far
I think
too narrow.
that we're at the point in time where we shouldn't be judging games solely on narrative, and we shouldn't be judging them based on gameplay. I think this argument is gone to rest.
Sure.
I think that it's 2015. and I think that it's done.
Yeah.
I think that this is a great argument to have from anything pre-2013, but at this point, games are becoming such a heavy medium, becoming such literature.
We're literally making movies off of them now.
Yeah.
There's books.
So the
based
other
off
way
of this
around.
stuff.
We're making games out of movies that were made from games.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it's true.
With Street Fighter, let's not talk about it. But what I'm saying is that this is a great argument to have, and it was a great argument to have. I think we're at the point in time where I say screw both of these, and we just play the games, and we just think about them.
Just enjoy them.
We just enjoy them.
And at the end of the day, everybody should go and play Gone Home.
Fucking play Gone Home.
Do it. Go play Gone Home. Well, I think that brings it to rest. I hope you guys enjoyed this first episode of Random Encounters. Random Encounters, again, is a podcast that's all about games played in every format, and we want to make sure that every episode that you come here, we're going to talk about the news, we're going to have some fun, we're going to get completely off topic and talk about Harry Potter for some random reason, right? But then we're also going to have these bigger, broader conversations about gameplay and games, and again, it's not going to always be about video games. We're going to talk about tabletop. We all play D&D here. We play card games. We play tabletop games. We play everything, and so we want to highlight a lot of that stuff. So again, I want to thank you, John, and thank you, Dirk, for being here with me on this. If you guys like this, please subscribe to us. Also, check out the SaveState at thesavestate.com. We have a Twitter. We're at _SaveState. Thanks for joining us, and check back for episode 2. We'll see you guys.